Hey guys, this is actually going to be my very first YouTube video that I've ever made. I'm going to do a short video here today on the interest of Bitcoin and how it affects price and just the amazing resemblances of these two charts that are very simple. Anybody can have access to this. And I believe that Google Trends is the number one best predictor of Bitcoin price. I know it's almost rudimentary compared to, all the complex financial models that a lot of people use and try and predict these things. But really, this is has been the number one predictor of Bitcoin prices, and it's just almost uncanny how this simple Google Trends and interest in that you can Google and see the interest almost always directly correlates into a price that responds to that interest. It's unbelievable. But I'm just going to jump right into it. Here at the beginning, I'm gonna these are 5 year charts. Well, this one on the left is actually a little bit shorter than that. It goes back to actually it is about it's just a little bit over a 5 year chart from today, and this one is almost exactly a 5 year chart. And you see similarities. Of course the chart on the right here, the Google Trends chart, is not going to be as detailed as a lot of the charts you can get elsewhere, but I think it still gives you a really good picture of the overall movement. And of course, it's not going to show you the minute by minute or hour by hour, but it gives you an overall trend. And that's really how I'm looking at this. It's kind of how I look at everything. I'm not, in this to trade daily. I'm not in this to, doing that's with any of my investments. I don't personally. I'm not involved in cryptocurrency. I just find this very interesting, um, and I think that people can use this to really show where Bitcoin is going in the future. So I'm gonna just jump right into this here, and this first peak that really happened. I mean, there were peaks previous, but we're gonna start right here for the sake of the charts. And to be honest, the majority of people that were in before, say, December of 2013, the people that were involved in Bitcoin before this date were diehard Bitcoiners, I guess you could say. People that were really involved in the community, really believed in Bitcoin, really thought that this was the future of money, really thought that this could be a revolutionary idea and change the way our monetary system works and and took down the able to take down the Federal Reserve. Um, so people before this period, we're going to leave out for just right this in for the sake of this video. I'll get to them in a little bit, but I believe after this point, this chart really captures the mania and the everyday type people that got involved. So and how their behaviors kind of relate to this interest chart. So that's what I'm going to touch on for the time being. So starting here, we're going to say around, what is it? December 2nd, Monday, December 2nd, we've got, Bitcoin's $1,030. Okay. Now look at that date. Okay. December 2nd. Keep that in mind. December 2nd, 2013. Now we go over here at the peak. We've got December 1st through December 7th, 2013, Bitcoin reached peak interest up until at that time. That was the greatest all time. That was the highest all time interest in Bitcoin. Okay, and that correlated with this price here. So that makes sense. I mean, if have you ever heard the saying, "Money flows where attention goes"? I mean, you've got interest in Bitcoin all time high, and that correlates to the price. That makes perfect sense. People are gonna buy it, that sort of thing. They want to get involved in it, and then immediately the price goes back, gets cut in half. So it was 1,030, and it goes down. I think that's the lowest I can snag right there. It was 654. Okay, so not quite half. Excuse me on that, but I mean that's a big plunge. That's like almost $400. It's almost 40% decline. So same thing here. I mean that you see the interest in Bitcoin really go down at the same time, and look at that interest. It's cut by 2/3 almost from that price in this first move. And then you've got a pickup in interest after that. It's about, let's see here, it's about January 4th to like mid February. Is that right? Or late February? Yeah, early March. And I think that a lot of this particular move didn't really reflect in the price. There was some volatility there. It did a little bit. It bounced back up, but that was before. I think you've got a lot of people here asking questions. Hey, what is Bitcoin? What is this thing? What is this price? Some people just made a lot of money on this, and then they lost quite a bit of money on it. What is this? Did I miss it? Is it the top? Is Bitcoin dead? What is it? We don't really know. And then the interest kind of drops off. It completely drops off, and no one's really, it's no one's really interested in. No one really cares. And this goes from about, April 2014 all the way till we're talking April 2017. So you got a 3-year stretch here where there's essentially not much interest, not much anything. The price actually does drift upwards. I mean, we did hit a low in the low twos. I can't remember if it got into the 100. I don't think it did in this time stretch. But regardless, the interest is flat. It's really flat. And then all of a sudden, you get this spike up in interest in the week of May 21st to May 27th, 2017. Now, you've got the same thing here in the price. Okay, let me try and get this because this is, I believe, where it gets important. So you now take a look at that. Okay, so that's a new peak, right? That on this day, June 2nd, Friday, June 2nd, 2017. This was the highest Bitcoin had ever been in the history of Bitcoin. Okay. And I remember this. This was a big day. I mean, a lot of people were talking about this. People that got in early were, this is like the first of the Lamborghini type mentality. When people bought in for $10, this is going to 1 million. This is going to 100,000. This is going to 10 million. The Federal Reserve is going to be gone in a couple of years. No one's going to need any, and no one's going to use. This is going to destroy it. This is going to be a utopia. This is everything. And people were really kind of responding to that. A lot of people can get behind that idea, and it really took hold. And I think people before really didn't. At this point in June 2nd, you had some people that had been in it for years. But this is when the retail investors started getting involved. You had starting your everyday type people getting somewhat interested in and getting involved and buying some, making an account on Coinbase, that sort of thing. It's kind of the beginnings of it. It really started to pick up right here. But here's what's interesting. You see that date? It's Friday, June 2nd, 2017. This date, I can get it, is the week of May 21st, May 27th, 2017. So here's when the interest was the leading indicator of Bitcoin price. Okay. And on this one previously, this was almost simultaneous. So this one here, we've got, let's try and peg this again. We've got November 28th, 1030. We've got, that's really close. It's still, price is still leading indicator there, because you got the next week is essentially, that's close. That's still close, but you still see price being a leading indicator on this one. So you've got the interest after some of the people bought Bitcoin up to this level. So that's really, really interesting. So that tells me that these are the people that really believed in Bitcoin. These are the believers. These are the people that are behind Bitcoin. They're the ones that think it's going to overtake the monetary system, and they're the ones that bought it before there was interest. And their buying led to an interest here. About a week later, the interest came, But before that, the price was there because they bought it before everyone was interested. Now with this one, it's the reverse. The interest came, okay? The interest came, and then the price came, okay? Now that's significant because that tells me that these people, this is the first sign of the fear of missing out in Bitcoin, okay, when it hit this new high. So that tells me that this price is almost already inflated. It's almost too high for Bitcoin because this is people jumping in thinking they're missing it at the very beginning. And then so you've got, let's take a look at the next peak here, okay? Let's take a look. We've got September 1st at $4,900, okay? And I remember when it broke 4,000, it was starting to get crazy. You know, that's when the divide started happening. Before that point, it was kind of like we didn't know what it was, and or the I'm speaking on the average person. So the average person didn't know what it was. You know, they'd hear about it, but once it broke 4,000, that's when people were really starting to make some like life altering decisions. I remember people like liquidating 401ks and buying it. They were, you know, taking out credit cards and buying these things and buying Bitcoin and that sort of thing. And that's when some of the behavior started, you know, started chasing the beginning stages of what would have now be a mania, as you can tell in the future. And if you look at this chart just from here to here, you know, don't even look at this part. I mean, that's a bubble looking chart almost, you know, because it goes from nowhere to up here, and it's still the same thing. Like down here it was 1 Bitcoin, up here it's 1 Bitcoin. So why from here to here, what is the value change in Bitcoin that made it go from $450 to, you know, $5,000? What happened? Nothing. It's interest, of course. It's just people being excited about it and thinking it's going to take down the Federal Reserve. So, all right. Regardless, we're at September 1st there at 4,900. Okay, we are. Where are we at here? This one's actually a little bit almost 2 weeks ahead. August 13th, August 19th, you have another peak in interest. Okay, interest is now leading the price by a week and a half, we'll say. So this is another big deal because you've got this behavior continuing, but it's now getting stronger because the lag is getting, you know, it's getting wider almost. People are really starting to, you know, hype this up. Then they get in, and this is when, and it was late summer heading into fall, is when people were seeing some of their friends make a lot of money on it. They were hearing about, you know, 17-year-old kids making all this money on it. They're feeling like they missed out. They want to get in. You know, we don't want to miss this bus. This thing's, if it's going to 1 million and this thing's only at $5,000 now, you know, shit, sign me up. You know, you know what I mean? Like anyone's gonna do that. So that's when it really started to get crazy, and then you can see that in both the interest and the price chart. So let's go to the next peak is what happened. This is it. This is right before the whole thing changed. You know, this is that week right before Thanksgiving when people can, and I always refer to this is like the big changing week. This is like the big week for Bitcoin. Is this Thanksgiving, the week right before Thanksgiving and on Thanksgiving, when people came home to see their families, and everybody, I remember this. I went to my friend. I've got a friend who, you know, I've got some friends who live on the West Coast, and we're really getting involved in this. And they're showing me their charts on their phone. They got the apps hooked up on their phone to track their Bitcoin price, so they can check it every 15 minutes. And, you know, every time they look, it goes up 10. It doubles in price, and it's like they're showing their aunts and uncles and people that don't, you know, have finance degrees and don't understand economics, don't understand monetary history, and don't even know what this is. They're getting them involved in it. They're buying it, and then you can just see the interest after Thanksgiving. It's ludicrous. This chart is vertical. This chart goes straight up from that week right before Thanksgiving all the way to Christmas. Okay? And in that time frame, it was everybody and their brother were getting on this Bitcoin bandwagon, and everybody was making money on it. So it was great, Everybody thought that they were going to be millionaires. Some people, these coins that were worthless or a penny. I remember Dogecoin. It's just a joke. It's a joke of a coin. Like multiplied itself in value by, I don't know, it was like 30 times, 40 times. I mean, at this time you had companies coming out. You had Kodak came out with the coin. You got all these different. I didn't even know Kodak was still in business, to be honest with you. It was actually a really smart move by them. They came out and they put out this thing, and I wasn't the only person that thought Kodak wasn't even a company anymore. And now all of a sudden people are talking about Kodak, and they're coming out with this coin. And of course, it did nothing. I mean, Kodak's still irrelevant, but it got interested. Their stock spiked. I mean, people were putting money. People were changing. Companies were changing their stock tickers to, anything that had to do with blockchain or Bitcoin and or whatever coin, and it's just skyrocketing. I mean, skyrocketing. People were throwing insane amounts of money at this, and you have a top in the price. Let's try and hit this first one if I can here. It was okay. We've got December 9th, December 3rd, December 9th. You've got a 95 interest. Oh, let me back up a minute here. See how that number, it shows 95 on Bitcoin right there. Okay, that's all-time interest. So on the left side of this graph, you've got 0 to 100. 100 is the all-time high interest. So it has never been more interesting to people on the internet than it is right at this very point. So that's how everything else is related to this point. Okay. So this is 95. This is almost peak interest, December 9th. And that correlates to this price. Let's get it. Oh, not there. Trying to get it. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Like December 5th through 9th. Okay? 8th, we'll say. So what you see now, okay, is this price is catching up with the interest. Okay? You have something very interesting happen here. You've got this price. Remember how it was a 2 week or a week and a half week lag back here? Now it's not. Now it's almost right in line with the interest rate. That's farther ahead, but you've got this interest coming in at like not even a week ahead, like not at any ahead. It's like the same time. So what does that tell me? That tells me that this price is getting pretty heavy. It's outpacing the demand. Even as much as people were interested in it, it still couldn't sustain itself at this price. Because at this price, people were paying $16,000 a Bitcoin on December 8th of last year, and people didn't know what it was. They still didn't know what it was, and they still don't know what it is. But they knew that they were going to be able to sell it for $1 million one day. So if someone comes to you and said, "Hey, I got this thing and I'm going to sell it to you for $16,000, but by 2020 you're going to sell it to this guy for $1 million," you're not going to ask, "Can I get one?" You're going to ask, "How many can I buy?" You know what I mean? So people were still believing that, and those are the people that didn't understand, monetary history. They don't understand what this is. They don't understand. They didn't understand anything. They just knew they were going to get rich from this thing, this digital string of numbers. But unfortunately, at the very peak, that week before Christmas, it changed. Everything changed. So you've got that week. I can't pick the exact top here, but that's pretty darn close. You've got Tuesday, December 19th. The price was at 17,240, and I think it shot up to really close to 20. Or maybe it just broke 20, but not much past that. And that's right around Christmas. And this is at the very peak when that interest completely caught up with the price. And then it came all the way back down. And we're gonna take as far as I can get here, we're looking at February 9th. It came down to, $8,000, almost touched $6,000. Okay. And at the same time, the interest came all the way down. And the interest now, what do we see? The interest now is now leading the price again. Okay. So this tells me that it's now going to follow the interest. It's now going to follow the interest again, and it's a week ahead. And the interest in Bitcoin had been cut by 2/3 along with the price. It is correlated almost exactly. And then you see another tick up. You see a couple tick ups. You see a couple tick ups in price, and then all of a sudden you see this interest just drop off a cliff. And basically, at this point, the only people that are left are the people that believed in it in the beginning. All these people, when they're all saying hodl or hold or whatever they wanted to say, and making t-shirts and, Bitcoin to the moon, and we're all buying Lamborghinis and all that, what they don't understand is that can't happen. You can't just continue to sell the same thing to someone at a higher price when it's not producing any value. It's not doing anything. It's not doing anything. So people just lost interest, and they were selling because they were taking, the smart people, a lot of people were taking profits here. They're like, hey, wait a minute, like this is crazy. This is crazy. Let me get out for a little bit. Let me see where this goes. And with that happening, a lot of people got hurt. Don't let it fool you. Most of the people who bought Bitcoin bought it up here, okay? And they all got hurt. There's a lot less people that got in cheap, and I got news for you. There's even a far less percentage that got in for under $100 for any significant amount of money. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Okay, you've got this interest chart that hit a recent low in June. We'll say this week here, June 9th, and ended. Okay, now this price, if this interest chart really predicts price exactly spot on, then that Bitcoin interest chart is an 8. Let's try and find another 8. Okay. That's pretty close. September 24th. Where is the price at September 24th? That's pretty close. Okay. We're talking 4,300. 4,300 a Bitcoin. Okay. Now what's it at though? It's not at 4,300. It's like what, 6,600 today? Something like that. 67 almost. Why is there that difference? Why is there that difference? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. I think that number one, this thing's building up and this price is going to come down. Okay. I think you've got some people holding in here because they still think it's going to 1 million. They still think it's going to 100 million or whatever it is. They still think it's going to, destroy the Federal Reserve. But the people, your retail people, they don't hold these anymore. These are all people that are believers that are buying up the selling from these people, okay? And they can do that. They feel comfortable doing that because they bought back here. These are a lot of strong hands that are still holding right now. So you've got people that bought in back here, and they made so much money here. If they made so much money here, and they still, even though they held it all the way through 20,000 and back down to 7 or 6,000, and even if they hold it and it goes to 4,000, they're still making 400% on their money. I mean, that's insane. Of course, it's going to be better selling at 2,000% gains, but no one knows exactly when this thing was going to pop. You could convince some of the most diehard Bitcoin people or people anti-Bitcoin people that this was going to hit 100,000. A lot of the anti-Bitcoin people were basically giving up, and they said, yeah, it's going to hit 100,000. Yeah, it could, but it didn't. It was right at that point when it turned around. But regardless, down here, people just lost interest. They got burned. So down here, this interest, this is the hardcore Bitcoiners. This is that 8 number. This is the people that truly believe in Bitcoin. Okay, this is 8. Now, here's the question. Okay, here's the $1 million question. Can this interest ever come back? Can people be this interested in Bitcoin again? Now, I personally don't think so. But I think a couple of things could drive the interest spike up. Like we've seen a little spike here. Can it get to this point? Probably not. But I think you've got two ways this can happen. I think the first way is one of these cryptocurrencies, doesn't have to be Bitcoin, one of these cryptocurrencies to legitimately do something. So far, none of these cryptos have done really jack. It's a lot of white papers, a lot of talk, a lot of we're gonna do all these great things. A lot. It's all coming. It's all coming. It's all coming down the pipeline. It's coming. It's coming. But nothing's happened. So you need, and people have kind of lost interest in that. They don't, they want to see something. They want to see something tangible. So these people are betting that something tangible is going to happen. These people are holding on. They're holding on still. They're saying, you know what, we're gonna hold on here. We don't want to sell here. I know that maybe things aren't looking so good, but we still believe in it, and we're gonna hold here. And something tangible is going to happen. Well, it needs to. Something tangible needs to for this price to sustain these levels. Okay, if not, this price is going to ultimately come down to what it was back here. But if it doesn't happen, if nothing tangible, legitimate, I'm talking something like majorly legitimate. I'm talking like I need one of these coins to like threaten Visa, like actually threaten Visa, not have some nerd tell me it's threatening Visa. I'm talking like literally have people transacting at the same speed, same convenience, same everything as Visa, except it's doing something even better than Visa, and that's why I'm going to use it. And so far, that is so far away from where we're at right now that I don't see that any happening anywhere. I could, that can change clearly because there's always improvements in technology and that sort of thing. But where we are today, I don't see that happening. Now, the other way, and it's almost what we see here happen this week, is something really negative about Bitcoin is now bringing the interest back up. So even though this is just a minuscule spike in relative to where it was, at least it's going up. None of these have gone up since Christmas. It's just been straight down almost, except for these dead cat bounces. But this is new. This is new interest right here. This little tip. This is people saying, "Hey, what's going on again?" And unfortunately for Bitcoin, this is negative news. Okay, this is really bad. This is Tether has been manipulating, which I'll do another video on later. But this is Tether has been manipulating this whole thing this whole time. Whereas all this news was, Bitcoin's going to 1 million, Bitcoin's knocking out the Fed, you're going to transact in Bitcoin, we're going to do everything in Bitcoin, we're going to do everything in cryptos, we're going to do this, do that. And it never came to fruition, at least not yet. And that's a big difference because that's going to drive the price. There's a lot of people hoping in here, or a lot of people thinking that they have the next new coin. They're going to make $1 million. They're going to make $1 trillion, whatever they think. Whereas this is like, this is like way different feeling than back here. This is way different feeling than back here. This is like, like something really bad with Bitcoin's about to happen. Now, I think that's going to be interesting to see if this negative press that's really spiking is going to positively affect the price. I personally don't think so because essentially I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but the majority of the news that has happened about Bitcoin in the last 5 years up until very recently, like this week, is that Bitcoin is going up in price. These people have made so much money in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to do these great things. Crypto's going to do these great things. We don't need central banks. We don't need any of that. Which we don't need central banks, but Bitcoin's not the answer. But it's going to be really interesting what happens here because I believe that this uptick, if it goes much higher, negative interest, like something legitimate comes out that's really bad, that something really bad happened, like Tether has no money behind it, then this price is going to go down as fast as this goes up. And I think this thing is just a ticking time bomb till this thing goes, just plunges straight down. And one other really interesting thing is that, like I said, this price is spread out amongst fewer hands. Back when the price was here, a lot of people own Bitcoin. I mean, there was a lot of retail people. There was a lot of just everyday type folks that had fractions of these coins, and a lot of people had pieces of it. But now those people are out, and the only people that are left hold a lot of these things. This has been consolidated and consolidated into fewer and fewer hands that hold more and more of these. So what happens when a guy that has, say, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin decides that when he bought everything, say he bought everything for $127, and now he's got $1 billion worth of Bitcoin here. What happens if that guy sells? Okay, one of those guys sell, two of those guys sell, three of those guys sell, then that's when this price just comes to zero, because then they're going to try and get out of Dodge. And it's gonna I think this is gonna be bad for people that still hold it. I think you should get out. I think this is ultimately going where the interest shows that it's going down to here, which is correlates at the very least 4,500. Right now there's still a lot of interest, but I mean it still correlates to a $4,500 price at this low. So I think that's your near term low. I think you're gonna hit that 4,300, and then I think it really depends on what happens here with the new information about Tether. It's been manipulated. It's been this. It's been that. If something goes south, I think this price could go to zero. Otherwise, I think it's just going to continue to follow this chart. So that's what I have for you guys today. It's very interesting, but so far up to date, overall, this chart has been a fantastic predictor of Bitcoin prices, and I think it's going to continue to be that way, at least in the near term. So I'll definitely continue to watch it, and keep in mind, guys, we were able to witness the largest bubble in human history. So, always try and learn from that. Try and first of all, just be in awe that we were able to see this. It's a tremendous time to be alive, to see all this craziness happen. But also learn from it. Because a lot of people are going to get hurt. A lot of people have gotten hurt, and it can be scary, and it can be fantastic. So if you're on the right side of the trade, it can be great. If you're on the wrong side, it can really be bad. So we're going to use these as times to educate ourselves and really try and learn as much as we can and go from there. And thanks again, guys, and have a great day.